I am happy to report that systematically taking down murderous thugs is just as fun in rural America as it is in the Himalayas, and that Far Cry 5 is another great game in the open world series Ubisoft seems most willing to have fun with. It may be playing a familiar tune, but all of these combat, physics, and wildlife systems mix together to create unexpected moments of intense and hilarious action. Rural America may not be quite as exotic or exciting a playground as a tropical island or remote mountains, but the open-world map of fictional Hope County, Montana is, in true Ubisoft fashion, packed with so much to find and so much happening at any given time, it's easy to get distracted from the mission at hand. That's not a complaint. I like games with big possibility spaces. The mountains, valleys, plains, forests, rivers, lakes, and caves make it a place where there's never a dull moment. The scenery and characters don't look quite as nice as, say, Assassin's Creed Origins, but it's a great-looking game. While the Far Cry formula remains addictive, there is a certain amount of sameness to it. The tasks required of you, the weapons at your disposal, and the supernatural dream sequences are also similar to Far Cry 3 and 4 that there isn't much by way of surprises in store in those departments. It's still a blast to play, and the brutal combat remains ever so satisfying, but Far Cry 5 doesn't feel like a revelation.
Some will wish to destroy all that we have built here together. Some will betray us.
Our main villain this time is a zealot leader named Joseph Seed. He's a respectable threat, but his acts of terror haven't left the same impression on me that Voss or Pagan Min did in the previous two games. Seed doesn't have any particularly memorable lines, and his motivation for wanting to end the world is murky. But his story does end up in an unforgettable place, making this an open-world adventure that is worth seeing through to completion. While your unnamed sheriff's deputy character is a mute either way, I like that, for the first time in a Far Cry game, you can choose between a male and female protagonist and do some light customization. But for a series as bonkers as Far Cry, the customization options here are a little conservative. One way Far Cry 5 changes things up is that the structure of the main quest has been improved. In order to get to Seed, you need to eliminate his 3 siblings first. The fact that you can make your way through the 3 different areas and bosses in any order you like makes Hope County feel truly open. Faith Seed, the one female boss, is probably the most interesting of the 4. She employs a drug called Bliss to cause hallucinations in her victims, and those sequences end up being some of the most visually interesting moments. But I don't expect any of these leaders will end up being remembered like Far Cry 3's incredibly creepy Voss still is today. Another significant change is that while Far Cry has always been primarily about playing as a one-man army, here you spend less time alone than in previous games. There are more NPC allies to meet, all of whom are well-written and likable.
Now, I always keep my word. So, if you need a pilot who can shoot the dick off a gopher from 50 feet in the air, I'm your gal.
Then there's the Gun for Hire system, which allows for both companionship when you're not playing in co-op and new combat possibilities. 9 different specialists can be recruited, offering assistance in the form of air support, sniper support, or even animal buddies. It's yet another way to customize your experience and generate some fun, random craziness. It's also notable that there are many more options for getting airborne now. Unlike in Far Cry 3 and 4, planes and helicopters are abundant in Hope County. It's nice to order a helicopter and take the scenic route to your destination. The entire story can also be played cooperatively with a real-world friend, and that's when Far Cry 5 achieves a whole other level of crazy. 2 players generate twice as much chaos, and it's really fun to gallivant around Montana with a buddy leaving destruction in your wake. Then there's Far Cry Arcade, an entirely new mode separate from the campaign where you can create your own levels. It aims to keep you playing long after you've finished the campaign, but in its current state it's a bit of a disappointment if you want to play rather than create. The editing tools are very in-depth, and a handful of different mission types can be created, but this isn't something you can casually sit down with and whip up your own level. Creating something worth playing will take time, patience, and actual level design skills. As such, much of what is available to play right now in Far Cry Arcade is boring and asinine. There is a level called Resident Evil 7 that recreates the mansion from the horror game, but all you do is walk around the outside of the building. I could see the potential for a steady stream of new Far Cry content here, but it will need dedicated and talented creators to make it. Far Cry 5 is another wide-open playground with all the necessary ingredients for causing a real ruckus. Loads of enemies and allies, feisty wildlife, and plenty of explosions. Amidst all the insanity, it manages to tell a serious story with respectable characters and a powerful ending, though it's not the most memorable in the series. The successful transition from exotic locales to America's backyard makes me excited to see where the Far Cry formula goes next. For more, check out the first 11 minutes of gameplay, our Let's Play of the opening hours, and an overview of what's new in Far Cry 5. And for everything else, stick with us here at IGN.